Hello, and thanks for joining us today for our weekly podcast. In today's episode, we're going to talk about finding the right keyword phrases for your business. You have to rank for the correct keywords if you want to be found when someone searches for your product or service. And I'm Paul. I'll be your host, and joining me today is Ian and Ken. So, Ken, let's start it with the basics. Looking at the difference between search engine marketing and organic traffic and the role keywords play in that. I mean, is there a difference between the two?
Well, there's a difference between the two in terms of how they work. I mean, in terms of keywords, yes, I guess too. But I mean, keywords are keywords, right? So let's start by talking about search engine marketing. And the overwhelming majority of the time, when somebody talks about search engine marketing, they're talking about paid traffic. They're talking about paying to get you found when people are doing search. And they're usually paying Google. They could be paying Bing, could be, a variety of other websites that will allow paid ads. And so, that can be great. And I think it can be very powerful. The reality is, though, only for Google, for pay-per-click on search ads, I should say, Google or Bing, the typical results are only 10, maybe 20% will click on paid ads. The majority of people are looking for organic search results. And the organic search results are broken out into, a couple of different sections. You've got your Google Maps results, and then you've got your true organic listings, which are down below the paid ads, then the maps, and then you get your organic listings. So in terms of traffic, I think it's more a difference in, they both have, it's kind of tough because if I were doing a search engine marketing campaign, a Google pay-per-click campaign, if you will, I want to focus very specifically on intention-oriented keywords. I want to get people when they're ready to make a buying decision. So I definitely want to focus on finding user intent specific keyword phrases. Now, you may want to back that up just a little bit and find keyword phrases that are important, through the buyer's journey as they're doing research, because you need to stay top of mind. And one of the really effective ways that you can combine paid search and organic search is, using remarketing ads, which are display ads, which can be really powerful. But when it comes to ranking for search organically, which is all of the stuff that you can do to your own website to help it rank and show up in what we call the organic search rankings, which again, you've got at the very top of the page, if there are paid ads that are running, you're going to see the paid ads. There could be two different kinds of Google paid ads. There could be local service ads, which are square or rectangular in shape. Then there are the traditional Google pay-per-click ads, and then there's the Google Map result, and then there's the organic listing. So it's important for people to realize that organic listings, people usually almost always have to scroll to the next section below the website that's not visible to even be able to start to find the first set of organic search results. But they trust those a lot more than paid ads, because people recognize in this day and age, they recognize a paid ad. When you're talking about organic results, you definitely want to focus on user intention and conversion oriented keyword phrases for sure. But you also want to think about being found for a whole variety of common phrases that people might be searching for. Some intention to buy oriented. In other cases, maybe it's more education. It really just depends on the nature of your business, how long your sales cycle is. If you sell stuff that has urgency, like emergency plumbing services, there's not a short I mean, there's not a long buyer's journey on that, right? I mean, people are looking for a solution fast. And so different set of keyword phrases than maybe, the traditional things that you want to have and try to rank for. So the answer is, yeah, they're different because when you stop paying for ads with an SEM program, your traffic goes away. Organic is an investment in your business and in your website and in your overall web presence to help you be findable, regardless of whether you're paying for ads or not. And you have more control over that situation, even though it's hard. And I don't want to fool anybody. I mean, it can be really hard to get people ranking, but at least you have a fighting chance because you own and control a lot of the things that can dictate that. Paid ads, you're at the mercy of the platforms that you're working with. And so if you're doing a paid ad strategy on Facebook, for example, which is not necessarily search marketing per se, although it can be, I mean, how many people do you know have had their Facebook ad accounts shut down? So
a lot. But you brought up a couple of good points there, that there's different types of keywords, and we're going to talk about that in a minute here. But ideally, in a paid campaign, you would be running ads for every stage of the buyer journey. The reality is most small businesses don't have the budget to do that. So you are going to want to rank for terms on your website that you would never probably use in a paid ad campaign. And so that kind of goes into what I was going to ask Ian here, that there are different types, if you will, of keywords, local keyword phrases, head terms, long tail keywords. Can you talk about that a little bit? And like what I just said about, you want to rank for certain keywords on your website that you probably wouldn't use in a paid campaign, and why is that?
Sure. Yeah. And just to add to what Ken and you just talked about, competition, it's competitive in nature in both paid ads and in organic. Like, you never can stop and set it and forget it on either of those types of platforms or strategies. You need to continuously be monitoring and optimizing them, or you will lose the game. You will start to degrade and erode over time, and you'll start to lose the results. So I just think that's important for business owners to understand, that this is an ongoing investment, like we've talked about in other episodes, where it's like a brick and mortar location. You need to continuously keep that brick and mortar location working at its optimum, looking fantastic, attracting and engaging more customers. So now, in answer to the question you asked me, Paul, you asked about the types of keywords or keyword phrases. And so let me just kind of lay them out a little bit. You have local keyword phrases. Actually, I'll just start with head terms first, because it just makes more logical sense. So head terms are really broad, highly competitive keywords. They could be one word, they could be two words. Usually they don't go much beyond that. They could even be brands. But examples of these, excuse me, might be like laptops, phones, shoes, electrician, plumber, dentist. All of those are head terms, and those are very, very highly valued ones. But they're also going to be the most competitive search terms. The thing to remember is that those are probably the most searched for terms related to your product, your service, your business. So it's important that you do rank for those, but then you should also be focusing on some easier targets, which are things like local keywords. So if you're a local business of any kind, you absolutely should be doing these. So say you're a plumber in Queens, you should be trying to get the keyword Queens plumber or plumber Queens, clogged drain Queens. You should be tacking on the location so that it helps you rank for those searches that are specific to your location. So another example is coffee shops in New York, right? San Francisco bike rentals. You want to be ranking for those types of terms if those are your business and those are your locations. So that's really important. Another type of keyword are long tail keywords. If you've been doing SEO for any amount of time, your SEO experts or should be talking about these, because generally long tail keywords, which just means it's a longer key phrase. So an example might be best laptops for graphic design 2023, right? Or how to train a German Shepherd puppy or a Bernese Mountain Dog puppy. All of these really long key terms, keyword phrases are what people are looking for specifically. And if you can answer those specifically with the content, whether it's on paid or on organic, but speaking specifically about organic, if you have content that aligns with those signals that those people are looking for, it's going to set you above in the rankings. More people are going to search or, click on that because you're offering a solution, an answer to their very specific question. General tips that you need to be thinking about when you're doing keyword phrases is use a mix. So use a mix of local keywords, head terms, long tail keywords. That should be part of your strategy. Use quality. So look for the quality ones over quantity. Context matters. Always place keywords in context that adds value to the user. And analytics. Use analytics to determine like which keywords are actually working the best for us. And Ken talked about intent, and I think we'll go into that more, but that should be playing a big part. Not that you always have to be just focusing on, buying intent or commercial intent, because there's opportunities to, you guys have both used the example of, how to set a Nest thermostat. If you're an HVAC contractor, right? That is not a highly commercial or buying intent keyword phrase. But as you guys have explained really well in the past, that positions you as an expert, a helpful expert that gives helpful information for free when people are searching for it, that you pre-position yourself as the vendor of choice when somebody is looking for you or for your service.
Yeah, and given the rise of voice search is becoming more common and mobile devices, the geo-modified keywords and long tail keywords are more and more important because people search differently with voice search than they do when they're typing something in. So that's going to make a big difference. And that's only going to, I think voice search is just going to continue to increase. So it's important to keep that in mind when you're looking at these, especially these long-term or these long tail keywords and the geo modifiers. So Ken, if I'm a new business or I don't really rank well for anything because I haven't bothered to do anything online, but my competitors are, and given what Ian just explained about the keywords, what does that mean for me from a keyword research perspective? Where would I start?
Yeah. So from a research perspective, the first thing that you need to do is whenever you're doing your research, you need to find out how competitive that phrase is. And you need to find out what competitors are ranking above you. And that will become a reality check really fast. And if you want to outseat somebody who is in a dominant position for plumber plus city and state, and you're not ranking or you're a brand new business, it's going to be hard to get there. So you want to think about, this is where the location-based keywords and the long tail keyword phrases become really important, because you want to start looking to see, because they're a lot less competitive. And, we're in a world post-COVID, during COVID and post-COVID, where online marketing is more competitive than it has ever been, both from a paid search perspective and also from an organic search perspective. So whatever you were thinking before COVID, you probably need to come close to doubling it now in terms of cost and effort, because it's just gotten that much harder. And so if you're not thinking along those terms, it's not realistic. And probably what you need to think about is just taking your budget and spending it on paid ads, because you don't have enough money to do organic search. Again, it's a short-term thing, but hopefully if you're smart about it, you can bootstrap your way to take money and revenue that you're getting into your business and investing it into organic search, because in the long run, that is the most cost-effective strategy for generating traffic and leads and sales online. So I think it's important to, to go through this reality check. There's some fantastic tools and reports that will tell you where do you rank and how many competitors rank ahead of you. There are grids that can show how you rank in each location on these grids that are plotted on a map. And so that can dictate and should dictate your strategy. You might need to think about winning the SEO game in a secondary market or for a secondary service, so that you can generate the revenue you need to be able to pay for the SEO campaign to allow you to focus and move your focus on maybe a more lucrative location or service that you might want to offer. It's all going to be budget driven, and it's all going to be based on competition. But you've got to think about if you're a local business serving a local area, you got to look at location specific keywords and information and data about those. You got to look at the competition levels. You need to go see what your competitors are doing. How hard is it going to be to unseat them? Why are they ranking so much better than you are? Because of the inbound links, because of the number of Google reviews, because of the amount of content that they have on their website, because they have a page about what you want to rank for on their website and you don't. You got to think about all these things. And that's why, this is really strategy driven and research driven to be able to take that on. And so I think from a pragmatic perspective, a business that's just getting started, or a business that is making the leap into digital marketing, you have to pick your battles. Digital marketing is most effective when it is targeted. And if you're trying to do broad brush, we've talked about this, over and over and over again. If you're trying to sell to anybody who has a checkbook in, a 3 million population metropolitan area, and you have a couple of $1,000s to spend a month on SEO, you're going to have to pick your battles in order to get that to give you meaningful results.
Yeah, and something we've seen is that pre-COVID, a lot of small businesses, they could get by with a smaller budget and not putting a lot of effort into the digital world. And, they got their business through events or BNI or, referral, whatever. And, COVID hit and that kind of dried up. But their competitors had been investing in digital marketing and SEO, and now they find themselves at a serious disadvantage, and they want to fix it now, and you can't fix it now because your competitor's been doing this for 2 years and you haven't.
Right. You can kind of fix it now, but that's a paid ad strategy.
Exactly.
And it's, and again, like I said, once you stop paying, your traffic goes away. So,
well, and a lot of people, you said 10%. I'd be shocked if it's that high.
I think that's a general statistic, right? So I think water restoration, there's a much higher percentage of people who are going to click on paid ads because they're desperate. They got an urgent problem. They're going to click on the first credible result that they see, which is probably going to be on a paid ad.
If it's an emergency situation, that's probably true.
Yeah. For something like that. But then if you're selling something that is, even if you're, like for a car, which is, $30,000-$60,000 purchase, you may still click on that paid ad just because it gets you to your result fast, right? If you're looking for, the 2023, make model of your choice, and you see a paid ad, you might click on that because you're just in research mode. You're just exploring. You're wanting to find research. And it's important for every business to realize there are a lot of people who do that, right? And so that's costing you money. So when you're running your ads, you need to think about that. And that needs to be a choice that you're making, that you're showing up there. That could be a really good strategy, or it could be a very costly strategy, but it needs to be done with insight and with purpose.
Exactly. So, Ian, something we're asked, we touched on this a little bit, kind of drill down on a little more. But something we're asked a lot is, what are the most important phrases that I should rank for? I mean, how would someone figure that out? I'm sure there's some kind of process you go through.
Yeah. It reminds me of the question that I used to get asked a lot less now, but occasionally it comes up. And the question is, what's the one marketing strategy that's a silver bullet that I should be doing, right? And it depends on your business. There's a lot of different factors in play, right? So in answer to the most important phrases that you should be ranking for, I think just to kind of take a step back, at its very basic, the way you determine what key phrases are the most important for your business is just what Ken was saying. You research. You with some of these tools, you can enter seed keywords. So, as an example, if you're a plumber, you would put in the term plumber, and then it can give. These research tools are very good at giving you all of the different derivatives. They show you ranking by volume of searches. You can drill down oftentimes to localities. If not a locality, then your region. And so that gives you a lot of power, because the search volume, as well as the search intent, which a lot of these tools now highlight for you as well, can be super, super powerful. But, as far as looking at which ones are the most important, always start with what your core business is, your core industry, your core services and products. Right? That's where you need to start from, because that's what people are searching for. If I'm a dentist, people are going to be searching for a dentist. They're going to be searching for, teeth cleaning, for root canals, for dental implants, for Invisalign, whatever it might be. Those are all related to the products and services and the core business that I have. But then you can start to branch out more and do some of the long tail keyword like we were talking about before. But all of these need to align with your business goals, meaning you need to understand why you're actually doing SEO and what the highest value services are that you want to track more of. If you don't understand that, you need to do a little bit of gut checking to understand, which are my most valuable services to us, which ones do we want to attract more people to, because they're the most profitable services, or they're the services or products that our team loves to sell, or maybe they're the easiest ones to deliver, right? We have that conversation a lot with contractors, because some services are lower value, but they can turn those things around in 2 days versus, a week. And so, if you can do that, then you can stack multiple jobs on top of each other and actually have more profitability by doing multiple jobs than big jobs. Ken talked about competitor analysis. You need to know what your competitors are ranking for. It doesn't mean follow the lemmings off the cliff, because don't assume your competitors actually know what they're doing. Obviously, if they're ranking higher than you, that's a good place to start, by looking at what they're doing right. But man, there's a lot of bad SEO out there. So don't assume that. One of the other things, this is probably a good place just to bring it up, is if you've been using an SEO provider, an agency, somebody that's been helping you with SEO, and this is the most common thing I see. I don't know if you run across this as well, Paul and Ken, but when we start a conversation with a prospective client who's looking for SEO help, who's already been investing in SEO, we go down the discussion path of, well, what kind of reporting, why do you think it's not working? Because that's the reason why you reached out to us. That's what you stated. You said, our SEO isn't working. We're already investing in it. Well, tell me about that. And, 9 times out of 10, actually, it's probably more like 10 times out of 10, they have no idea what's working. But they say, but I'm getting monthly reports. And when they show us those monthly reports, they tend to be, here's all of the keywords you're ranking well for. And that actually means nothing, because those could be nonsensical keywords. But that is a standard report that many of the bigger SEO companies out there just automatically shove out to clients. And clients just think, oh, I'm ranking well. But if you're a dentist and the keyword that you're, ranking number 1 for is, air cleaner or something, because you have air cleaners in your clinic, like that's not driving sales at all. So you need to be very thoughtful of that. Yeah, you need to know what types of phrases you're going to be targeting. So Ken, you talked about the intent. Is it a transactional phrase? Is it something like buy iPhone 14? Like that tells you right there that somebody is, first of all, interested in looking at the iPhone 14, a specific product, but they want to buy it. So that should be you. If you sell iPhone 14s, you want to be ranking for that. Or if somebody types in order vegan pizza online, man, if you offer a vegan pizza, you should be ranking for that. So those are really important. Informational phrases, again, these are more of the things like that example of the HVAC company with the thermostat walkthrough, like how to set it. Those are valuable in that you have to think about the journey. We always bring you guys in this conversation back to the buyer's journey. Where are people searching for information, and what is their intent, and what can you give them at the time that they're searching for it in order to move them through their journey? So they might be looking for information that's more or searching for things that are more informational, like how to train a puppy, but the chances are very high that if you provide that information and you're a dog trainer, that they might just realize, or they might try training their own puppy, but they might be in the market very quickly to hire somebody to help them train their puppy once they learn it's not that easy. So you need to be considerate of those things as well. There's a lot to take in when you're looking at SEO. But then one of the really important things is, have a strategy, stick to your strategy, measure what's happening each month. And that means measure it against your competitors and how you're ranking, and optimize and modify.
I think it's also important too to realize just because you're ranking in the dominant, even when you get to the dominant position, that still may not be enough traffic to your website, right? I mean, we're in a weird cycle right now where a lot of businesses, their volume of business is down, and business owners don't really, they either don't want to believe it or they don't believe it. I'm not sure which it is, but we're in a cycle right now where there was a ton of work done during COVID for a whole lot of reasons, and the demand for that type of work has dropped considerably. And, we're in the end of summer when we're recording this right now. People are on vacations. They're trying to get that last trip with all of their friends and family. Of course, search volume and leads are going to go down. Doesn't mean your ranking is decreased or become less effective. Like Ian said, this is a long haul strategy. There are going to be ebbs and flows. There are going to be algorithmic changes that happen from Google where your SEO may have been done perfectly legitimate and just fine, but you get caught up in one of these algorithmic pushes, which just came out this week, by the way, from Google, that sometimes it just throws everything into a little bit of chaos. Those things usually will sort themselves out if you've been doing the right thing and then been following best practices, in a couple of months. And I know that that's not convenient, but businesses need to plan for this. And that's why, I think you really have to look at omni-channel, and omni-channel, to me, SEO is omni-channel. But you want to make sure that it's really truly omni-channel.
Yeah. I just to add to that, I love how you talked about the different facets of SEO. I use this analogy a lot when I'm talking about systematic marketing, right, or integrated marketing. How you have a 3D object and you're trying to understand what's working, what's not, what's affecting you the most as far as results. The same is true with SEO, in that you need to kind of turn that object around in different ways to understand it, because your total your aggregate keyword ranking of the keywords you want to rank for is really valuable, as is your visibility, the traffic that you're getting. You need to be looking at this from all different directions, and it can get pretty complex, especially when you start to try to diagnose what's working and what's not and why. I think that's where, if some businesses try to do this on their own, they have a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
So Ken, following on what we just talked about, when someone starts doing their keyword research and figuring out what keywords they want to go after, rank for, what are some things they should be thinking about when they approach this?
Yeah. So before I forget to say this, focusing on the problems that you solve, one, is huge. And yeah, your competitors may be solving the same problems. Chances are they're probably not talking about it on the content on their website. So don't forget about that, because that's absolutely critical. Number two, before I forget to mention this, is a lot of businesses want to start, and look, I'm guilty of this. Paul, you know this is probably better than anybody, where you want to go chase the shiny object. And, part of it uh, is a good and noble thing to do. But sometimes you just need to double down and invest on the thing that is driving 80% of your sales, instead of trying to launch something that might account for 5 to 10% of your sales. And so you take your SEO budget and you invest it in 5 to 10% of the possible business that you could generate for your business instead of the 80%. That's a huge mistake. And a lot of businesses, I think they dilute their SEO effectiveness because they can't pick a primary. You got to pick a primary. Once you get the budget, you can pick secondary, tertiary, etc., services, and even markets that you want to go after, locations that you want to go after. But again, you've got to prioritize. This is all research and strategy driven. So I wanted to make sure I got those points because I think they're incredibly salient to what we're talking about. So differentiation is huge. Do you have a unique certification in a market that people might care about? That's a differentiation. That means you should be able to win on that keyword phrase. For me, StoryBrand Guide St. Louis. I want to win that phrase. If somebody is looking for StoryBrand Guide in the city or region of St. Louis, I want to be the first person that they see, or at least the top three. Then so think about, does your business have those different qualities? Ask your customers. They'll tell you why you're different. And if they hired you because you're different, there are other people that are going to hire you because you're different. And so that differentiation, the points of differentiation are critical. Making sure that you meet the searcher where, with the phrases that they're searching, instead of the gobbledygook that you might get caught up in your business. I like to pick on tuck pointers because even though I bring it up probably, I don't know, 100 times a year, I still don't really know what tuck pointing is exactly. But I know a lot of tuck pointing websites that I have looked at occasionally in the past. They talk about tuck pointing, but I don't know what I would search for tuck pointing at this point just because I'm curious to know what it is, not because it's a problem that I'm having. And so they're missing the traffic of people who don't know what tuck pointing is, but are expressing their situation through problem language. So you got to think about those problems. We've talked about geo modifiers and the importance of location-based phrases. Plumber in St. Louis, StoryBrand Guide St. Louis, like I talked about, outsourced marketing company in Toronto, or is it Bradford? I always want to say Brantford because there is a Brantford too, right? But anyway, it's Bradford. So those are critically important. And that should be high priority for you. Obviously we just talked about, are there products or services that are just they're either really efficient for you to deliver, they're very profitable, it gets you your ideal customers. If you think about who your ideal customers are and what they're wanting to buy, and you don't have a keyword strategy aligned with trying to get more ideal customers, then that can be maddening. And you'll get a whole lot of leads through SEO activities that you're paying for, or paid ads or whatever, that wind up just frustrating you because it's like, I don't want to do a single window replacement. Now, some of that's going to be inevitable, because if you're ranking for window replacement overall, sure, you're going to get that one-off, and it may even be a higher volume of people, because there are a lot more people who are looking for a single window or a couple of windows to be replaced instead of a whole house replacement. That's just kind of the nature of SEO. So that some of it's going to bring some annoyance, but to the extent that you can filter the traffic to align with the stuff that you really want to sell the most is really important. Problem language, it really is super important. I think community-based thinking is also important, reaching out and building relationships in the community to build backlinks, to share valuable content that help people solve problems, not only as it relates to your business, but maybe a problem that somebody in the community might be having. And an easy example of that is, and I wouldn't do a ton of this, but I think sometimes it's good to kind of mix this content in, is, have a blog post about your top 10 favorite barbecue restaurants in the market that you serve. If people like and trust your business, then that can be valuable. How important that is from an SEO perspective, probably not super important, but it may get some traffic onto your website where people are like, okay, I'm going to check these people out. If you do a good job, you probably, if you're not ranking for the name of your business, then that's problematic, because that shouldn't be super competitive. But a lot of people, don't know to search for other things. They search for the name of their business on the website, and of course they come up number one, or hopefully number one, maybe number two. So you just have to think through all these things. But yeah, I think, going through, and thinking about the frequently asked questions that your customers are asking, monitoring social media groups that are relevant to the business that you have, where people are describing the problems that they have, the challenges that they face. It could be, if you're an accountant and you're a part of, an accounting group on LinkedIn, for example, and people are asking questions about, what I have a hard time with Excel formulas. I never can get them right. I wish there was a great resource or checklist. Well, that's probably an indication to you that if somebody's asking it in a group like that, there are a lot of other people that are asking it. And you want to kind of do a sanity check, and you want to verify this with some keyword research. And sometimes you can't get down to the local market level data to really help you make the best decision, but you can certainly look at trends and get an idea of whether or not that is the kind of thing that people really are interested in finding out about. And again, it's that pathway to get somebody onto your website so that hopefully they remember you. And if somebody's on your website, when they do a search, again, at a later date, unless they've cleared out their cookies, Google's going to nudge your website up a little bit, because it remembers that somebody visited your website in the past. So getting somebody,
Google does use your browsing history
yeah,
for search results.
Yeah. So getting somebody on your website for the first time is an important thing.
Yeah, definitely. And a couple things. There are some good resources out there for Excel formulas. The problem is they're written by programmers.
True.
So, but something you said earlier, and we've seen this a lot, Ian, I'm sure you've seen it, is you have to prioritize. You have to pick one or two service, and obviously this is going to depend on your budget, but you have a business, they offer 7 different services and they want to rank for all 7 of them, but they only have $1,500 a month to spend. It's not going to happen. You have to pick one, probably your most profitable one, or the one that's already ranking well, and get that to rank better, and then move on to something else. But so
you've been silenced.
It was my cough. Sorry. I was just going to add to that. I was going to say, the one thing we haven't really explained to people, but hopefully it's clear if they've listened to some of our other podcasts, is that the whole reason you do all this is actually to have a kicking website that is maxed out from a content standpoint that aligns with these searches and these search terms. We haven't really made that connection today, but that should be obvious to people that there's on-page and off-page SEO elements. And you have to have a website that's maxed out from an SEO standpoint. So make sure you invest wisely in your website development, because that will play a huge part in your success or failure related to SEO.
Yeah, it's all about content
Yeah, I think we
for local search.
podcast on that.
Yeah.
So, Ian, there are some, we're talking about keywords and research. There are some free keyword research tools out there. Can you talk a little bit about them? Are they any good? I mean, if there's a free version, there's a paid version. Obviously, you're paying for something, that paid version.
Yeah. So there's lots and lots of tools. Like if you Google, go to a search engine and type in free keyword research tools or free keyword tools, you will get an endless stream of options. So I'm going to try to help to shorten that a little bit. I'm interested to hear if you and Ken have your favorites as well. But I'll give you kind of, out of that huge list, I'll give you 8 that I think are worth looking at. And the first 3 I'll share are entirely Google based. And the reason I'm sharing them first is because they are absolutely free. There are no limitations to them whatsoever. So you have the Google Keyword Planner. In order to use that tool, you actually have to set up a Google Ads account. You don't actually have to be running any Google Ads, but that is where that Keyword Planner tool exists. And it exists in there because Google wants you to do paid ads and they want you to research it properly. And so it's a free tool within Google Ads. Again, you don't need to pay for it, but you do need to set up an account.
And I think that's actually become a little bit less useful because they've made some changes in the way they show you the results. But it's still a good place to start, definitely.
Yeah. And it's not my favorite. I'll share my favorite in a minute, but I'm sharing absolutely free, and all of the other tools that are, in my view, and probably in your guys' view as well, that are better, have free trials or free limited versions, but they're all paid. Like if you really want to get the most out of them, you have to pay for them. So Google Keyword Planner is the first one. Google Trends is an often looked and underutilized tool. Type in trends.google.com. And it is an amazing tool because what I love about it is if we're using our other tools to analyze the success or failure of what's, in any particular keywords that we're ranking for clients and for ourselves. And if we see slippage, one of the first things we like to do is go to Google Trends. Like, is there a historical trend that's happening right now to these keyword phrases? And Google offers this. You can go all the way back to 2004. And so see a chart from 2004 to today, and it will show you the historical trend. And usually it's quite eye-opening because, oftentimes we and other agencies and even internal SEO departments will create month over month and year over year reports. Month over month is always highly dramatic because a lot of times there's seasonality, there's things that fluctuate. If you just look at month over month, you will have, great wins. You'll feel like you're the king of the world. And then the next month you might think you're dying, right? Because you have to show this horrible report to your boss or your client. And the fact is that some months have stronger searches than others related to your service or product.
Yeah,
so Google Trends is a good one.
Can I jump in there real quick?
Yeah, please do.
Because it relates to Google Trends, because we've seen this recently, a lot of, like in the home services industries.
Yeah.
When we went through COVID and people were sitting at home and they did a lot of things because they were at home. They couldn't go anywhere. They couldn't do anything. So they did a lot of things that I'm going to say are optional, if you will. They didn't have to do it, but it's like, maybe I should put siding on my house. It's looking kind of bad. I think maybe I should get the house painted, or, hey, I'm going to put the leaf filter or leaf guard on, whatever. They didn't have to do it, but they did it because they were there. And now those things
and they weren't using their budget to travel. right? Or for other
Exactly,
things,
exactly. So
going to sporting events or concerts. Yeah.
if you go into Google Trends and, like you just said, you look at this, you can see over the past year and a half, there was a spike in that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
now it has dropped off, or, and leveled off. And I was actually watching something on the news a while back. Me and Ken talked about this a little bit. Is that people, and it was actually a story about how the trucking industry is having all kinds of problems. I won't go into that, but it was basically the things that people were spending their money on then required raw materials. And
Mhm.
now it's not that they're spending less, they've shifted their spending, and they're doing things that don't require raw materials. They're traveling, they're going out to eat, things like that. So their spending has shifted, and you can see this in Google Trends. I just wanted to kind of put that in there, that because like what you just said, a lot of these service area business, they've had a great couple of years, and now it's kind of slowing down, and they're like, well, what happened? I had a great couple. Well, what happened is consumer spending shifted. The priorities of the consumer shifted.
Yeah. Yeah. The hardest thing for any of us as business owners to manage is human behavior, right? You can't account for human behavior. And
Hey,
I would
life's
even
easy
suggest,
until you throw people into the equation, then it screws everything up.
and I would suggest too, Paul, because we've seen this working with healthcare professionals like dentists, orthodontists, that kind of stuff, is that you wouldn't think that COVID would have created a huge post-COVID bubble in that industry, but it has as well, right? Some people stopped going to the dentist, even though the actual window of closures differed by state or province. Might have even been only like 2 months for some of them. The bubble that followed afterwards, or the dip and then the bubble, is that some people stayed home, not getting their teeth cleaned for a year, maybe 2 years, right? So then there was this beautiful bubble after, and then it's drifted off, and now we're back to kind of 2019 levels of what you'd expect. So trends is super powerful that way. um, Google search, do not underestimate the power of Google search. Like if you use Google Keyword Planner, Google Trends, or you don't even want to get into those, um, this is kind of a lower level grassroots type of way to figure out keyword phrases. Is just type in, like, if you're a plumber in uh, St. Charles, type in St. Charles plumber and look at the first of all, that's a good keyword, right? It's localized, it's what you do. But then look at the what Google suggests, because Google will suggest other keywords that you might want to search for, and dig into those. Like, those can be a great, again, very simple, low level, not very sophisticated way to do research. But man, if you want to start somewhere, that can get you started. Now I'm going to move into the free trial and the paid type platforms or tools that are really valuable. So my absolute favorite, I've used a lot over the years, but my favorite now, and has been for about the last 5 years, is SEMrush. We just love SEMrush. It's a powerful tool. It's got everything we need. Again, you can get a free trial. You can also get, I think there's kind of a free low level version that you can use. And some tools in all of these paid platforms, it's kind of like drug dealers. They give you the gateway drug so that you get hooked on it and you see the value, right? They're trying to help you see the value in the tool. So SEMrush does that. Ahrefs is another good one. Moz is another good one. One of the lower cost ones, although they've started to raise their costs over time, is Neil Patel's Ubersuggest. There's a free version, but it's gotten a lot more sophisticated in the last couple of years than it was, and it's a pretty cool tool as well. And then the last one is Answer the Public, and this used to be totally free. They now have a free and a paid version. And what happens sometimes with any of these tools, if you try them, the free version will show you some of the results, and then it'll like gray out or fuzz out the other results. So you only get so much value from them until you do a paid version. But any of those are good tools. Again, if you're starting from grassroots, no budget, you want to do it yourself, the Google tools of Keyword Planner, Trends, and Search will get you at least a little bit of value, and then you can move to some of the paid ones. Ken, Paul, do you have other favorites that I haven't listed, or what's your favorite?
Well, if you have, wouldn't say it's my favorite, but if you have a low budget or very limited budget, but the free ones aren't really enough. SpyFu has an affordable version that's pretty decent. Like I said, wouldn't say it's my favorite, but it's pretty decent for what you pay for it.
Yep. Ken?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just I know you guys kind of dissed Google Keyword Planner a little bit. I think it's
Really diss it. I think they've changed it, and they present things in buckets, and I think it's less useful than it used to be.
I think it's important though, because this is focused on Google's advertising plan, right? And so
Right.
if Google is seeing that it's important enough for people who want to pay to advertise on those phrases, chances are it's worth you investing in an organic strategy to rank on some of those services. So I don't know. I mean, I just and it generates a ton of keyword phrases that you can sift through and really consider and think about. It doesn't give you some of the other data in terms of the intention, the location specific information is usually very frustrating. It's fairly limiting, but I don't know. I mean, for a quick and dirty assessment to build a nice, robust set of keyword phrases, especially if you're doing competitor analysis to see how your competitors are also ranking for those. It's a worthwhile thing. I mean, there are so many tools out there.
Yeah, one thing you can do, you don't have to actually run an ad. You can create a campaign without actually running an ad. You just have to make sure you pause it, because Google will automatically turn it on. But if you start to create a campaign, in an ad group and an ad, and you get to the part where you're putting in keywords, Google will suggest all kinds of keywords, and you can, you can pull those.
Yeah, and part of the suggestion is to get you to load up a bunch of keyword phrases that you're running and paying ads for, right? So don't just take those as blanket, oh, I need to work on these and put these into my organic ranking strategy. But consider them and think about them, and then you're probably going to come up with some ideas pretty quickly and easily to find a phrase that maybe is less competitive, that maybe you could rank for organically, where your competitors have kind of missed the boat. But again, I think, what's that?
I was just going to say, one of the interesting trends that we're seeing with Google Ads, and the tools are still there. Keyword Planner is still there.
They're getting more expensive?
No, well, yeah, but I was just going to say, Google's very working very hard to have people move to Performance Max campaigns, and Performance Max campaigns are pretty much entirely automated, and they don't use any keywords that you can enter whatsoever. So, if Google wins that battle, if they can, I mean, the key to that working out is if they actually work and they give you a better ROI, then we'll see. But
yeah, well, Google is automating.
For discontinuing tools is all I was trying to get at.
Yeah, well, Google is automating more and more, even in the expanded, or the responsive search ads. You can't do expanded text ads anymore. If you have them, they'll still run, but you can't change them. You can't modify them. And even in the responsive search ads, they're automating more and more. And I think eventually they're going to force everyone into these Performance Max campaigns, and that's really going to hurt small businesses, because it basically combines your display and search and and video ads into one campaign. And like you said, it's pretty much fully automated, like the so-called smart campaigns that they have, where you put in like topics as opposed to keywords.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And even with the responsive search ads, Google tells you if you make a change, you should wait 2 weeks to see what happens before you go and change something else. With the Performance Max, there's you should wait a month. If you make a change, you should wait a month before you go and change something else, because it takes their algorithm that long to adapt to what you just did.
Yeah.
And I think that's really going to hurt small business. And it wouldn't surprise me if Google went in that direction, because the more they can automate things, the more they can stack the deck in their favor, so to speak. Because Google, there's a reason that the Google ads show up above Maps and organic, because Google doesn't make money off Maps and organic. They make money off of ads.
Yeah. And not only are they above everything else, they're also below everything else.
Yes.
And in everything else, right? Like they're in the
Right.
maps as well. They're everywhere. So,
Speaking of maps, I think, this is something that we also need to talk about when it comes to keywords. And that is, you need to know what the categories of Google businesses are. Because those are really important keyword phrases to rank for, and you need to work your butt off to try to rank for them, because they are so important. The reality is, if you're a local business, 60 to 70% of all clicks or phone calls are going to happen on the Google Map results. For that to happen for your business, you've got to be in the Google Map. You've got to be in the top 3. You got to show up on the Google Maps. And so, understanding, the right categories that your business is listed under on your Google business profile is really important. And so those are critically important keyword phrases that you need to understand. And, I don't know about you, Ian, but, a lot of times we find that businesses pick the first thing that pops up in the results, that when they type it in, when they're first setting up their profile, that's the closest match. But it's not really the right descriptor for what their business sells. And sometimes Google doesn't have a category for it to align exactly with what your business does. In other cases, if you offer 5 core services, you have to pick one that's your primary on Google. And you can
add secondaries too.
You can add secondary, but that primary one is critical. And you pick it with purpose. Don't just let just let it happen.
It is kind of mind-blowing when you look at analytics, how many calls and how much traffic that the Google Maps, which is Google Business Profile, actually generates. And Google has just released a bunch of updates over the past couple of days to the Google Business Profile.
Well, if your category is roofing contractor, because you're a roofer, you probably ought to try to have content on your website about roofing contractor in the locations that you serve, and have content about roofing contractor, on your website instead of just roofer, because if Google thinks it's important enough to set it as that critical category of the descriptor of that type of business, I think you should have content on your website about it. So look at the Google categories too.
And just to clarify something, so when we've looked at what the industry is saying gets the most clicks on a SERP, so search engine result page from Google, the number one clicked on item is the number one organic search position, gets almost 40% of clicks, and then the next one is 18%, and in Maps the number one position gets about 18%. So it's interesting that they get, if you can show up at the top of Maps and in the top of organic, you're going to be getting the lion's share of most of those clicks.
And then, the third level to think about is there are all of these publisher sites that are out there that do top 10 dentists in a market.
Yep.
And so, there is SEO involved in the way you write your profile to help you show up in that top 10 results. In some cases, it's purely driven by whether or not you choose to advertise on that platform, whether or not you show up in that top 10 list. But you can also improve your position just by making sure that when you write the description about your business, the services that you say you offer, you give that some thought as well, because some of those are really important. They're going to dominate in certain searches, the top 3 to 5 organic search results before people will even scroll down to that place of business. And if somebody finds a publisher that they like and trust, it could be Angie, it could be Yelp, it could be, House, it could be
Nextdoor.
Or what's one for dentists?
It's not coming to me right now.
Didn't mean to put you on the spot. Like, well, yeah. Anyway,
Rate MDs.
there you go. So, those are important. And if people have had experience and they trust those sources and they go look at the top 10, you want to think about, are you doing things to help make sure that you're ranking on those sites as well?
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to this. This is a pretty extensive topic.
Force multiplication.
There you go.
Way to work it in.
But, Ian, Ken, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap this up? We're just over an hour here.
No, just if you're going to invest in SEO, make sure you either hire somebody wisely or you build into it a plan, research, execution, and monitoring and reporting so that you can learn, modify, improve, and optimize, right?
I'll just add that SEO is a lot more than just on-page stuff that people are going to pitch you. So they're going to tell you that they're going to, and they'll show you that they've optimized a page for a particular phrase. There's a lot more to it than that. On-page stuff, it's kind of it's like the foundational stuff that I think is important that can, that if you don't do it, Google's going to look at you and say, seriously, are you really serious about your website? But is it the difference maker that's going to take you over the top? Probably not. So in some cases, if you're in a small town and there are only 5 other competitors, it's not that big of a deal, right? I mean, but if you're in a competitive market, you need to do everything you can to make sure that you're positioned where you want to be when people are doing search. And if that's an important way for you to grow your business, great. If it's not, then don't waste your money on SEO. If you're purely referral driven and, networking organization driven, good for you. If that's giving you the lifestyle of, with the type of business you want, the volume of business you want, that's great.
The only thing I disagree with that, Ken, is that we know now that, even if somebody is referred to you, even if somebody like by your colleague, your parent, a referral partner in BNI or something, that the journey always goes through the website, right? Rarely do people just phone you up.
Right.
And I think the reason why SEO matters even in those cases, and I don't know a market that's not competitive anymore. Like, we're in a pretty small town. We have 23 dentists. That it's amazing the competitive nature in the marketplace now. All I was going to say, though, is that SEO isn't some mystical thing. It's you creating content that people are looking for in your location. And that's why Google gives you the benefit of showing you better. So I think you need to be creating content to help people buy from you, just like we've talked about, like the story brand structure, the buyer's journey in past episodes. I think it behooves you, when you do that, to understand what people are really searching for. And I think that's where SEO integrates well with that conversation. So I think there's benefits to people.
I think there's always benefits to SEO. I'm just saying you should have a professional website. Absolutely. Do you need to go the extra mile to do a bunch of work to make that rank for search? Not if all of the traffic you're getting is going there because somebody told them you need to check out Billy Bob's this or that. And so they go look up your business on your website. They make sure you're a credible business. They're not searching for anybody else. They're not searching for that phrase. They're looking specifically to find your business. And if you're fortunate enough to be in that situation, you don't need SEO. Everybody else needs SEO.
Only if you don't want to attract more clients in a different way.
Right, exactly.
I agree to disagree.
Hey, I know a lot of businesses that successfully, all they do is go to networking groups and live off of the referrals that they get from those networking groups like BNI, and they have perfectly fine businesses, and that's great. You still need a professional website. I'm saying you don't necessarily need SEO. And if somebody tries to sell you SEO, have a conversation with somebody who's a marketing strategist to help you figure out how important it is. Are there elements of SEO that you need to do, like reputation management and getting killer Google reviews? Absolutely. And that's a part of SEO, but it's not what most people sell as SEO.
All right. Well, this is probably a good place to wrap up. So, Ian, you want to take us out?
Sure. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for joining us for this topic. I think it's really important, and I'm glad you chose this topic, Paul. Paul, thanks for all you've shared from an expert standpoint. For those of you that have been joining us, please share this with other people that can find it of value. And until next week, keep calm and market on.